Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World, a special edition from the European Parliament in Strasbourg. All things, what happened on this plenary session here this week. Of course, we'll be talking commissioners, what's next, and also Mario Draghi's report on how to keep Europe competitive. I'm delighted to welcome my guests here. I'll introduce them in no particular order. Let's start with João Cotrim de Figueiredo, Renew from Portugal, and also Maria Guzenina from the Socialists and Democrats from Finland, and also Mr. Michal Wawrykiewicz from the EPP from Poland, and last but not least, Hermann Tertsch from the Patriots from Spain. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So we have a lot to discuss, but let's get right onto it. The first thing, I'll just start with you, Maria. Looking at how the commissioners have been distributed, the ones that we know, is it, let's say, too much power for von der Leyen? Did she grab more power here? How do we interpret her choices?
Well, it does look good. I mean, what happened in France with the swap last minute and the rumors about how it was done, it seems that von der Leyen is gathering a college that is full of yes, yes people. That's how it looks like.
Yes, yes people. Michal, the EPP group, some very nice portfolios there. Would you say you agree there with Maria?
I wouldn't agree with Maria fully, because I think that this is the leadership of the president, and that's her responsibility to complete the college as she likes, because she needs to cooperate with the whole college, with all commissioners, and the cooperation should be perfect. So I believe it will be in the future like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, but let's look at this. I mean, we have some interesting portfolios. The names still need to be analyzed, exactly what they do. That was one of the questions in the press room. What will these commissioners do? Hermann, looking at this, I didn't see any commissioners that were chosen for the Patriots. Maybe that's not so surprise, but how do you assess this, and how do you assess the commissioners and what von der Leyen has done here?
I think von der Leyen has had a complete failure of a commission in 5 years. Mr. Draghi was very clear about the results of the last 5 years, and I think she wants to go on the same way, in having less socialists, less Greens, and less communists in this chamber. We will have the same kind of coalition between PP, socialists, and Greens in the commission, and we will have the vice president from Spain, Rivera, who is a radical socialist, a radical Green Pact fanatic, I would say. Doesn't give us too much hope that they are going to take a little bit of the way of the reason, of reasonability and rationality in the development of things. So I think we will have more of the same initially, but I think the nations are reacting very soon, and we will see in the next elections, in the different countries, we will see in the next elections the reactions to this coalition of PP and socialists again.
Okay. João, radical, it's the same. What's your assessment of those elections, as we know?
I'll go back to the first question, which is, does von der Leyen has more power? Yes.
Yeah.
No, clearly more power. Because I'll give you two examples. There was, in the previous two commissions, a clear number two. There is no clear number two in this commission. In previous commissions, there were always commissioners with more than one DG under their guidance. None of them has more than one DG. And most of the vice presidents only have one DG, not even the most important DG in their portfolio. Like Teresa Rivera, I agree, an activist, almost as activist as the parties in Patriots. But she doesn't have the DG of environment. She only has DG of competition. So, yes, she has more power. But it's probably not a bad thing at this stage, because one of the big political difficulties that Europe faces now is that not Germany and not France, the traditional engines of European progress, they're not in political conditions to impose that rhythm, to impose that pace. Macron is wounded for the recent elections, and Scholz, after 3 years, has more internal problems than ability to look outside. So it is a time for the European institutions, starting with the Commission, and continuing with this Parliament. This Parliament has to be much more serious in scrutinizing what will be a more powerful Commission powerful commission than in the past. So it's up to us. That's our responsibility. We'll talk more about it when you talk about the Draghi report, which says nothing like the things we were saying. We'll get back to that.
All right, we'll get to that point. But I want to also say that because they said there's no number two here. But if you look at some of those portfolios, Maria, I think on this front for your group, Socialists and Democrats, I think if we look at Ribeiro from Spain, I mean, that's pretty much in terms of the kind of potent portfolio, that almost seems like a number two to me.
Sure. And if I jump into the Draghi report at this point already, I think the urgency to tackle the challenges of climate change, they need to be taken seriously because they're directly linked to the competitiveness of Europe. And in this sense, it is very vital that the commissioners take really good care of their portfolios, that they take their job seriously. But what I'm worried about, and what I said earlier about von der Leyen gathering a yes crowd around her, by that I mean that every good leader needs in her gang those who have the courage to oppose her and to challenge her points of views. And to me, it seems that there is no such person at the moment in her college.
Okay. A lot of yes men. Now, Michal, I want to ask you, because looking at some of these powerful portfolios, even though the distribution a little bit fragmented in terms of actual big names, like von der Leyen didn't want to have the same, like Thierry Breton having those powerful competences last time we saw that. But at the same time, looking at the choice of classic portfolios, no matter how we name them, it seems they've gone once again to France, to big players like Spain. We were kind of hopeful with Poland, if we go back to the Central Eastern European region, that there would be more, let's say, higher responsibility. I mean, we have Kubilius for defense and space, although, again, falls under another commissioner, budget for Poland. But did Central Eastern Europe get rewarded here? It seems almost the same. How do you interpret it?
Well, the first remark is that according to treaties, the college and the commissioners should be independent from their countries and from their parties. So I think that is important that, in my opinion, this commission, this college looks very competent, and that is the most important factor. All of the commissioners should be, as I said, independent from the countries and should work like that according to the treaties. So I believe it will work like that. And coming back to the leadership of the president, Madam von der Leyen, she should be, she is, and she was responsible for the actions of the Commission. So she is to compose the college in a way that she likes to work like that. And coming back to your question, I think that very important portfolios went to the countries of the Central and Eastern Europe, especially when it comes to the budget, which came to the Polish commissioner. It is a very important portfolio, but it is a very competent person. Mr. Kubilius, responsible for defense, very important portfolio, especially when it comes to the situation in Eastern Europe.
But he still has to report to various other ones. Yeah. He's not fully and directly in charge.
I understand, but that is the way how the Commission should be composed. That is the division of the competences throughout all of the commissioners. So let's hope we are going to the hearings. That will be a very important moment. That is a very important role of the Parliament, that we are going through the hearings. We'll see how competent these commissioners are. We are able to ask them all of the questions. So we'll be much more rich in the knowledge about their competences within next weeks.
Okay. Now, Hermann, I mean, we see, for instance, the higher rep that's going to be likely Kaja Kallas, also from the Baltic states, looking at Kubilius for defense, even if it's not as powerful as potentially that was rumored to be. What about your standing on where Europe and this commission is going? And we have more of an emphasis on competitiveness. We have an emphasis now more on security. Your grouping has, I think, a different view on that.
Well, I think that one of the few positive news that we have in this commission is the disappearance of Borrell and the entrance of Ms. Kallas, no? That we could interpret as having a security, a representative for foreign policy and security that is not has not this awful tradition of the Spanish socialists in towards Latin America, and which has been disastrous under Borrell. In the perspective for Iran and the Middle East as well, I would say. In this sense, that is for us, it's in principle should be a positive sign. For the rest, I would say, I mean, it's a one woman show, as we say, and we will see now in the hearings what happens, and we are very interested in seeing the hearings of Ms. Rivera and the possible conflicts of interest and so on that can arise there.
Yeah. Well,
we are looking forward.
Okay, looking forward to it, as are all of us watching as well. Let's go through that, but I want to segue also now into the Draghi report, João.
Can I just say something about the Eastern influence? I think we should be very watchful and attentive to a very interesting collaboration between Ursula von der Leyen and Donald Tusk. They're both very much aligned in foreign policy, and I think the Polish contingent within PPE is the largest contingent of all, and that pays in the Piotr Serowicz is a commissioner for budget. It's the only one who reports directly to Ursula von der Leyen. So the connection between Ursula von der Leyen and Donald Tusk as a former president of the European Council, we should watch it very carefully, because they'll both be around long before Olaf Scholz and Macron will have left the political scene. Now, you asked me about the Draghi report. Look, independently of whether you subscribe or not 100% to the recommendations, the one thing is clear, and I think everybody around this table and in Europe should be very aware, it's probably the last serious attempt to call out on the absolute need for reform in Europe. What he says basically is not the last 5 years, it's the last 25 years of inaction, of trying to run by consensus, that the only way they get consensus in this parliament is by postponing things, by finding compromises and not doing. He's saying, if we keep doing that, we'll have to lose either our freedoms or our welfare state or our way of doing things in Europe. It's an existential risk. The words are there. It's really serious. It's an alarm call. And if we don't take it seriously, if we start doing the typical parliamentarian things of trying to water it down, we are doomed. And people should know this. So it's time to be, as the report is, lucid, brave, and intelligent. And it falls on us to do the same. So we don't subscribe to all the recommendations. I don't think anybody does. But the diagnostic is very correct, and I think the therapy should be taken very quickly, and we should take it very seriously.
You mentioned there quick therapy. That's something I think the European Union is not
famous for.
Well, famous for.
That's why I'm talking indignantly about this, because it falls to us.
Fair enough. So you have that support, as you already pointed out, reform that's needed for a long time, not just these last 5 years, but it's all about timing. It's what I think the third report by a former Italian Prime Minister.
That's why I said
But at the
so
same time, Maria, like, again, there's very controversial things in that report, things that are not quite new, some things that are new, looking very much at this joint debt. How are we going to finance this? The Germans are probably not going to go along with this. So, I mean, yes, it may be too late, too soon, but what makes this different? How is this going to be implemented any other way than the other reports and the other warnings that have been apparently already around for years?
I have to agree with João completely.
You don't have to, but you do.
Yeah, I do.
Convincingly.
And I have to, because you spoke really wisely. And in a sense, the urgency of changes should push us all, despite our political groups, into action, and this action should be done together. And we should look at the Draghi report as a whole, not pick different elements from it and oppose them, because that way Europe is just going to stagnate.
Yep.
So we need big leaps, we need to make compromises, and we need to live with those compromises. And also in our native countries, we need to voice what's happening, and the urgency of changes needs to be explained to the people. Because at the moment, the far right and the far left are gaining power all over Europe, unfortunately. No offense. But if this will continue, Europe, an aging continent, will be in trouble.
All right. We may be in trouble, but there seems to be also very interesting policies ahead. I want to extend this discussion, but unfortunately we've run out of time, but I appreciate all these insights. It seems it's going to be a very lively debate these next few weeks and months and years ahead here at the European Parliament. Thank you all
Thank
for
you for
joining.
having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. That's Sacha Fahrbach at the European Parliament, Strasbourg, for TVP World. Goodbye.